Hi, I'm Franny, and in this presentation, I'm going to be talking about the Pizzagate conspiracy theory in depth to see why it became viral, what made people start believing in this conspiracy theory, and how it eventually became the predecessor of QAnon believers. So let's start with what Pizzagate is. Pizzagate is a conspiracy theory claiming that high-ranking members of the Democratic Party and U.S. restaurants are involved in a human trafficking and pedophilia ring. Hillary Clinton, who was running for the U.S. president when this conspiracy theory first came to light, was the most notable figure involved in this specific theory. This theory also affected restaurants like Comet Ping Pong, a pizza joint in Washington, D.C., and the alleged meeting ground for satanic ritual abuse inflicted by the Democratic Party members, according to this conspiracy theory. This conspiracy theory spread very quickly, so in order to understand the background, we need to see the events that made this conspiracy theory go viral. And then later we can look at specific sources. So let's take a look at the timeline of events. During October and November 2016, WikiLeaks had published the emails of John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chair, which conspiracists believe contain code words for pedophilia and human trafficking. In late October of 2016, a Twitter account that posted white supremacist material falsely claimed that the New York City Police Department discovered a pedophilia ring linked to members of the Democratic Party. This caused multiple fake news websites to publish articles that echoed the same claims. After a Reddit post that claimed that Comet Ping Pong was involved in the conspiracy, the allegations and evidence started to spread quickly on social media outlets like Reddit, Twitter, and 4chan, several days before the 2016 presidential election. The following images on this page are conspiracists who posted their support of this theory or evidence that point to this theory being true. The following slide shows the most frequent evidence used to support this theory. In December 2016, a man was arrested in D.C. after self-investigating by shooting 3 times at the doors and walls inside the pizza restaurant. Afterwards, the man told the police that he read online that Comet Pizza was hiding a sex trafficking ring and wanted to see if there were indeed children that were being trafficked. During the same month, New York Times published an article that debunked a lot of the evidence that was used by conspiracists to support the theory that Comet is hiding a sex trafficking ring. Pizzagate is known as the predecessor to QAnon. QAnon is an American political conspiracy theory that centers on anonymous claims that are relayed, developed, and increased by other conspiracists. Like Pizzagate, this theory centers around allegations of child sexual abuse, but with more general claims. In case you are unaware, many of the people who attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6th in 2021 were QAnon followers. So in some ways, Pizzagate was one factor that led to the January 6th Capitol attack. This shows that theories can spread quickly and massively, and can lead to violence from the conspiracists. I noticed the use of pathos the most throughout my research for this project. The main factor in persuading people to become Pizzagate conspiracists is using their own emotions to draw them in. If we look at example number 1, it looks almost like a call to action, telling people to spread the news in order to keep children safe. This is an example of appeal to popular passions, and it's convincing because who wouldn't be in support of stopping a sex trafficking ring? I would say that number 2 is an example of appeal to fear. It seems like it was deliberately deliberately written to make it seem like Hillary Clinton is running a secret sex ring. The third example is a mix of fallacies. It starts out by making the audience feel somewhat responsible for ending Pizzagate by telling them to decide for themselves, while already clearly having decided for himself which side he's on. This would be the appeal to popular passions. But then he follows with the headline of an article that makes it seem like the New York Police Department was investigating Clinton for sex trafficking. This part is an example of appeal to fear. The last two examples of just the articles are written as if Clinton was already arrested for these crimes. They would scare anyone reading it because she was the Democratic presidential candidate during this time of the article. While I mostly found examples of pathos used for this conspiracy theory, there was also a good amount of evidence, or logos. The only thing was all the evidence had been debunked already and there was not any new evidence. But let's still take a look at the examples. The first photo is an example of hasty generalization. The photo is of Obama playing ping pong, which would be proof that a Democratic Party member is a customer at the restaurant, where Democratic Party members meet and commit sex crimes. But it's a rush to conclusions because there is no proof that the photo was taken at Comet Ping Pong besides the ping pong table. Example 2 is harder to tell which fallacy it is, but I would still consider it hasty generalization as well. The symbols do match up to the logos in terms of shape, but not with the color, context, or other design elements. It's another example of rushing to conclusions when there isn't enough information to prove it's accurate. The third photo shows the alleged basement in the restaurant, but it was never found in Comet, even when the gunman looked for it. Even so, this picture is shown all the time as evidence. This is an example of ignoring the evidence because it's an old photo that has already been debunked. All of the pieces of evidence that I found are pretty old and have been debunked, but they are still shared across social media websites and are factors in convincing old and new conspiracists into believing this theory. Ethos was the appeal that I found the least of. Most of the proofs were logos and pathos because this conspiracy theory was created by the general public through the internet. I still did manage to find sources that had ethos elements though. The first one is a perfect example of using ethos to create trust. The person who posted it starts by telling the audience that they have insider knowledge about government members. They are showing that they are credible. I would consider this an example of hasty generalization because we don't actually know if the person who typed this is telling the truth. We can't see their face or even know how they got this information. But still, it's good enough for many people to trust it as a credible source. The second one of the article headline is an example of poisoning the well. The New York Police Department never did raid Clinton's physical property, but the thumbnail makes it look like the police officers are holding bags of Clinton's property that they took. In the article, they even clarify that the property was really leaked emails. This is an example of poisoning the well because it discredits Clinton by making it seem like she's going to be arrested for child sex crimes, even though that never happened. The third is also an example of poisoning the well. It discredits the entire Democratic Party and its members by saying that the left ignores the John Podesta emails that were leaked. Because of this, he's making the Pizzagate theory seem more credible. I chose this conspiracy theory because I think it was the first viral conspiracy theory I really encountered, where I met both believers and non-believers. I lived in Washington, D.C. until around 2014. Comet Ping Pong was my family and friends' favorite pizza place. We went there after I was told we were moving out of D.C. I have so many memories of eating pizza, playing ping pong, and bringing friends there. So to have a conspiracy theory involving one of my favorite restaurants was pretty crazy. I remember my mom talking about it, and I was confused at how a beloved restaurant of mine was involved in a pretty significant controversy. The majority of the people I talked to about this were on Comet Ping Pong's side and believed it all was a fabricated conspiracy. At first, it didn't seem like anyone that knew about this theory actually thought it could be true. But my grandma was one person I spoke to that did believe in this conspiracy theory. My family and I were going to go to Comet when we visited her in DC, and she told me, "Don't go there. Didn't you hear the news of all the child trafficking?" My mom immediately brushed it off and told her it was all fake news, but it still made me wonder what even made her believe in the conspiracy theory. The majority of the population does not believe in this conspiracy theory, and it has been debunked numerous times, but clearly it doesn't stop believers from believing. Pizzagate was just the beginning of the rise of QAnon. I mean, the Capitol attack happened from people that got into QAnon after Pizzagate. In conclusion, I found that there are two main factors that pushed people to become Pizzagate conspiracists: social media and fear. This conspiracy theory was able to spread because of social media. Every source I looked at came from some sort of social media post, either by sharing evidence, articles, or just their thoughts. The second factor is fear. I know that deep down, most Pizzagate conspiracists were just scared that members of the government, including a presidential candidate, were using restaurants as child sex trafficking rings, and they just wanted to do whatever they could to make whatever children involved feel safe. It's these two factors that really created both Pizzagate and QAnon conspiracists. I mean, the man that fired a gun in Comet Ping Pong got to that point because of those two things. He heard about Pizzagate from the internet and traveled to DC in order to be a hero and save the children. And I know that my grandma believed in Pizzagate because of these two factors as well. And I'm not sure that conspiracy theories like this are slowing down. While most of the main social media apps ban discussions around Pizzagate and QAnon, there are countless websites that conspiracists use to continue posting and sharing. Whether the specific Pizzagate theory is true or not, most of the educational sources say it isn't, it's still heavily impacted people involved, like Hillary Clinton and the owner of Comet Ping Pong. It's important not to spread information on the internet, even if it is on a serious or scary matter, or even just to get the word out, just in case, because misinformation, otherwise known as gossip, can seriously affect those involved.